就是台湾关系的中英文条文啊。这第二部分第一部分是只看中文版的那第二部分就开始讲英文条文，所以对英文没兴趣就只看第一部分就好，第二部分就不要看因为这个它条文确实比较第一个长第二个比较难一点，但我会把它解释得很清楚当然这是全部条文了那为什么搞得花花绿绿当然原来就全部黑字嘛，可是那样子谁看得懂这一般看着，除非英文登峰造极这个不然的连 ABC 看这个都很累所以我就是做了一些加工嘛，就是一个句子一个颜色这样子比较清楚但是呢，你说为什么下面画那么多横杠就断句因为它这个法律的条文文字都比较又臭又长，我们有时候念的时候累得要死所以我这边已经把断句就是你看嘛有些下面横线底线就一次念没有横线这样一次念这样子分开来就比较好那第三个就是说为什么这边有这个灰色的这个东西把这个用这些这表示重点表示它的重点所以我第一遍会先念然后念完第三部分第三集的时候再把重点先讲一次所以这个是灰色的这是重点。那你说这个红色是什么的动词当然基本上是动词有些它没有动词我们就把它当动词像第一个句子它就没有，你看它有句点嘛它没有动词但是等于是这个就算动词不管了反正就是你不要说这是当一个律师写的当然我也不是说我英文比他好，不可能但是我来看就是还是有一些小瑕疵但瑕不掩瑜因为这个法律文件本来要写的尽善尽美100分也是很难的事情不管小毛病也不管因为一般人能看得懂就偷笑了，还要去找他毛病那是太夸张但是我来看的时候有些地方还有瑕疵，中文版当然是瑕疵最大，因为是中文版翻的时候文字也差一点然后有些地方没翻出来，然后红字就是动词，因为英文句子的灵魂是动词嘛所以再讲一遍一个句子一个颜色第一个第二个就是画底线，跟没有画底线就断句这样子念起来你才会断一下嘛，不然你这个念到后面气都没了让自己也搞不清楚状况所以我这第二部分我就整个先念一遍，先不解释意思，因为光是念一遍就很久了，先念一遍，第三集再开始去解释它的意思所以第三个是灰色这部分是它的重点重点在第三集开始我讲了重点，第二集只是念一遍第三个就是动词所以掌握这几个原则。所以我这一边念的时候所以这个我会放在我20个频道里面的这个好几个，也包括了这个发音的正确发音的这个东西。所以我这次念一遍你就听也可以，或跟着我念我就速度念不要快，以清楚为准所以一定要最重要的就是第一个每个字的发音发音有两个，第一个是准不准第二个是清不清楚有人发音很准可他有时候念得不清楚可能各种因素第二个就是要断句，最重要是断句所以英文不管你念得准不准你至少断句你不要英文有个错误观念是一定要念得飞快就是看电视剧什么美剧那假的啦，那是人家已经背了多少遍的台词要赶时间嘛不是嘛？你看一般美国私底下你在没有准备情况下跟他聊天，他讲的也不会快所以不是比快，就像唱歌不是比高音比感情所以念的时候当然你如果天生就喜欢念快，或者你就是表现欲很强，念快也不是不可以但前提上你发音要准断句尤其断句要断得对那人家才知道你完全可以了解但是美国大人物嘛，大老板嘛，总统嘛，大官嘛教授嘛，有地位的他讲话的慢条斯理，反正学问越高的地位越高，他反而讲的比较慢，因为他讲的重点是讲清楚嘛，因为语言是沟通，不是在表演嘛，也不是在秀嘛反而是有一些小孩子7、8岁、8、9岁是叽里呱啦，也不知道讲什么东西 好，所以我这边就是念一遍啊，所以第二集是念一遍啊，所以你可以掌握这几个原则啊，你可以光是听啊，也可以跟着念啊，我就开始啊，念完这个第二部分就结束啊。Taiwan Relations Act and Act 1. To help maintain peace, security, and stability in the Western Pacific, and to promote the foreign policy of the United States by authorizing the continuation of commercial, cultural, and other relations between the people of the United States and the people of Taiwan, and for other purposes. 2. Be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America and Congress assembled. Section 1, short title. This act may be cited as the Taiwan Relations Act. Section 2, findings and declaration of policy. 1. The President, having terminated governmental relations between the United States and the governing authorities on Taiwan, recognized by the United States as the Republic of China prior to January 1st, 1979, the Congress finds that the enactment of this act is necessary, A, to help maintain peace, security, and stability in the Western Pacific, and B, to promote the foreign policy of the United States by authorizing the continuation of commercial, cultural, and other relations between the people of the United States and the people of Taiwan. 2. It is the policy of the United States, A, to preserve and promote extensive, close, and friendly commercial, cultural, and other relations between the people of the United States and the people of Taiwan, as well as the people in the China mainland and all other peoples of the Western Pacific area. B, to declare that peace and stability in the area are in the political, security, and economic interests of the United States and on matters of international concern. C, to make clear that the United States' decision to establish diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China rests upon the expectation that the future of Taiwan will be determined by peaceful means. D, to consider any effort to determine the future of Taiwan by other than peaceful means, including by boycotts or embargoes, a threat to the peace and security of the Western Pacific area, and of great concern to the United States. E, to provide Taiwan with arms of defensive character, and F, to maintain the capacity of the United States to resist any resort to force or other forms of coercion that would jeopardize the security or the social or economic system of the people of Taiwan. 3. Nothing contained in this act shall contravene the interests of the United States in human rights, especially with respect to the human rights of the approximately 18 million inhabitants of Taiwan. The preservation and enhancement of the human rights of the people of Taiwan are hereby reaffirmed as objectives of the United States. Section 3. Implementation of the United States policy with regard to Taiwan. 1. In furtherance of the policy set forth in Section 2 of this Act, the United States will make available to Taiwan such defensive articles and defense services in such quantity as may be necessary to enable Taiwan to maintain a sufficient self-defense capability. 2. The President and the Congress shall determine the nature and the quantity of such defense articles and services based solely upon their judgment of the needs of Taiwan in accordance with the procedures established by law. Such determination of Taiwan's defense needs shall include review by United States military authorities in connection with recommendation to the President and the Congress. 3. The President is directed to inform to Congress promptly of any threat to the security, or the social or economic system of the people in Taiwan, and any danger to the interests of the United States arising therefrom. The President and the Congress shall determine, in accordance with constitutional process, appropriate action by the United States in response to any such danger. Application of laws in national agreements, Section 4. 1. The absence of diplomatic relations or recognition shall not affect the application of laws of the United States with respect to Taiwan, and the laws of the United States shall apply with respect to Taiwan in a manner the laws of the United States apply with respect to Taiwan prior to January 1st, 1979. 2. The application of subsection A of this section shall include but shall not be limited to the following. A. Whenever the laws of the United States refer or relate to certain countries, nations, states, governments, or similar entities, such terms shall include and such laws shall apply with such respect to Taiwan. B. Whenever authorized by or pursuant to the laws of the United States to conduct or carry out programs, transactions, or other relations with respect to certain countries, nations, states, governments, or similar entities, the President or any agency of the United States government is authorized to conduct and carry out, in accordance with Section 6 of this Act, such programs, transactions, and other relations with respect to Taiwan, including but not limited to the performance or services for the United States through contracts with commercial entities on Taiwan in accordance with the applicable laws of the United States. C. The absence of diplomatic relations and recognition with respect to Taiwan shall not abrogate, infringe, modify, deny, or otherwise affect in any way any rights or obligations, including but not limited to those involving contracts, debts, or property interests of any kind, under the laws of the United States, heretofore or hereafter acquired by or with respect to Taiwan. II. For any purposes under the laws of the United States, including actions in a court in the United States, recognition of the People's Republic of China shall not affect in any way the ownership of or other rights or interests in properties, tangible and intangible, in other things of value owned or held on or prior to December 31st, 1978, or thereafter acquired or earned by the governing authorities on Taiwan. D. Whenever the application of laws of the United States depends upon the law that it is or was applicable in Taiwan or complies therewith, the law applied by the people in Taiwan shall be considered the applicable law for that purpose. E. Nothing in this act nor the facts for the President's action in extending diplomatic recognition to the People's Republic of China, the absence of diplomatic relations between the people in Taiwan and the United States, or the lack of recognition by the United States, and attendant circumstances thereto, shall be construed in any administrative or judicial proceeding as a basis for any United States government agency, commission, or department to make a finding of fact or determination of law under the Atomic Energy Act of 1954 and the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Act of 1978, to deny an export license application or to revoke an existing export license for nuclear exports to Taiwan. F. For purposes of the Immigration and Nationality Act, Taiwan may be treated in a manner specified in the first sentence of Section 202B of that Act. G. The capacity of Taiwan to sue and be sued in courts in the United States in accordance with the laws of the United States shall not be abrogated, infringed, modified, denied, or otherwise affected in any way by the absence of diplomatic relations or recognition. H. No requirement, whether expressed or implied under laws of the United States with respect to maintenance of diplomatic relations or recognition shall be applicable with respect to Taiwan. 3. For purposes including actions in the court in the United States, the Congress approves its continuation in force of our treaties and other international agreements, including multilateral conventions entered into by the United States and the governing authorities on Taiwan, recognized by the United States as the Republic of China prior to January 1st, 1979, and in force between then on December 31st, 1978, unless and until terminated in accordance with law. 4. Nothing in this act may be construed as a basis for supporting the exclusion or expulsion of Taiwan from continued membership in any international financial institution or any other international organization. Overseas Private Investment Cooperation Section 5. 1. During the 3-year period beginning on the day of enactment of this act, the $1,000 per capita income restriction and insurance, Clause 2 of the second designated paragraph of Section 231 of the Reinsurance Foreign Assistance Act of 1961 shall not restrict the activities of the Overseas Private Investment Corporation in determining whether to provide any insurance, reinsurance, loans, or guarantees with respect to investment projects on Taiwan. 2. Except as provided in subsection A of this section, in issuing insurance, reinsurance, loans, or guarantees with respect to investment projects on Taiwan, the Overseas Private Insurance Corporation shall apply the same criteria as those applicable in other parts of the world. The American Institute of Taiwan, Section 6. 1. Programs, transactions, and other relations conducted or carried out by the President or any agency of the United States government with respect to Taiwan shall, in the manner and to the extent directed by the President, be conducted and carried out by or through A. The American Institute in Taiwan, a non-profit corporation incorporated under laws of the District of Columbia, or B. Such comparable successor non-governmental entity as the President may designate hereafter in this Act, referred to as the Institute. 2. Whenever the President or any agency of the United States government is authorized or required by or pursuant to laws of the United States to enter into, perform, enforce, or have enforced an agreement or transaction relative to Taiwan, such agreement or transaction shall be entered into, performed, and enforced in the manner and to the extent directed by the President, by or through the Institute. 3. To the extent that any law, rule, regulation, or ordinance of District of Columbia, or any state or political subdivision thereof, in which the Institute is incorporated or doing business in peace or otherwise interferes with the performance of the functions of the Institute pursuant to this Act, such law, rule, regulation, or ordinance shall be deemed to be preempted by this Act. Services by the Institute to United States citizens on Taiwan, Section 7. 1. The Institute may authorize any of its employees on Taiwan A to administer to or take from any person an oath, affirmation, affidavit, or deposition, and to perform any notarial act which any notary public is required or authorized by law to perform within the United States. B. To act as provisional conservator of the personal estates of deceased United States citizens. And C. To assist and protect the interests of United States persons by performing other acts such as are authorized to be performed outside the United States to counsel the purposes for such laws in the United States as the President may specify. 2. Acts performed by authorized employees or institute under this section shall be valid and of like force and effect within the United States as they performed by any other person authorized under the laws in the United States to perform such acts. Tax-exempt status of the Institute, Section 8. 1. The Institute, its property, and its income are exempt from the taxation now or hereafter imposed by the United States, except to the extent that Section 11A3 of this Act requires the imposition of taxes imposed under Chapter 21 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1954 relating to the Federal Insurance Contributions Act, or by state or local taxing authority of the United States. 2. For the purposes of the Internal Revenue Code of 1954, the Institute shall be treated as an organization described in Sections 170, B1A, 170C, 2055A, 2106A2A, 2522A, and 2522B. Furnishing property and services to and obtaining services from the Institute, Section 9. 1. Any agency of the United States government is authorized to sell, loan, or lease property, including interest herein. 2. And to perform administrative and technical support functions and services for the operations of the Institute upon such terms and conditions as the President may direct. Reimbursements to agencies under this subsection shall be credited to the current applicable appropriation of the agency concerned. 2. Any agency of the United States government is authorized to acquire and accept its services from the Institute upon such terms and conditions as the President may direct. Whenever the President determines that to be in furtherance of the purposes of this Act, the procurement of services by such agencies from the Institute may be effected without regard to such laws of the United States normally applicable to the acquisition of services by such agencies as President may specify by executive order. Any agency of the United States government making funds available to the Institute in accordance with this Act shall make arrangement with the Institute for the Comptroller General of the United States to have access to the books and records of the Institute and the opportunity to audit the operations of the Institute. Taiwan Instrumentality, Section 10. 1. Whenever the President or any agency of the United States government is authorized or required by or pursuant to laws of the United States to render, or provide to, or to receive or accept from Taiwan any performance, communication, assurance, undertaking, or other action, such action shall, in the manner and to the extent directed by the President, be rendered or provided to, or receive, or accepted from, an instrumentality established by Taiwan, which the President determines has the necessary authority under the laws applied by the people of Taiwan to provide assurances and take other actions on behalf of Taiwan in accordance with this Act. 2. The President is requested to extend to the instrumentality established by Taiwan the same number of officers and complement of personnel as were previously operated in the United States by the governing authorities on Taiwan, recognized as the Republic of China prior to January 1st, 1979. 3. Upon the granting by Taiwan of comparable privileges and immunities with respect to the Institute and its appropriate personnel, the President is authorized to extend with respect to the Taiwan instrumentality and its appropriate personnel such privileges and immunities subject to appropriate conditions and obligations as may be necessary for the effective performance of their functions. Separation of government personnel for employment with the Institute, Section 11. 1. Under such terms and conditions as the President may direct, any agency of the United States government may separate it from government service for a specified period any officer or employee of that agency who accepts employment with the Institute. B. An officer or employee separated by agency under paragraph 1 of this subsection for employment with the Institute shall be entitled, upon termination of such employment, to re-employment or instatement with such agency or a successor agency, in an appropriate position with the attendant rights, privileges, and benefits which the officer or employee would have had or acquired had he or she not been so separated, subject to such time period and other conditions that the President may prescribe. C. An officer or employee entitled to re-employment or reinstatement rights under paragraph 2 of this subsection shall, while continuously employed by the Institute with no break in continuity of service, continue to participate in any benefit program in which such officer or employee was participating prior to employment by the Institute, including programs for compensation for job-related death, injury or illness, programs for health, for life insurance, programs for annual sick and other statutory leave, and programs for retirement under any system established by laws of the United States, except that the employment with the Institute shall be the basis for participation in such programs only to the extent that employee deduction and employer contributions as required in payment for such participation for the period of employment with the Institute are currently deposited in the programs or assistance fund or depository. Death or retirement of any such officer or employee during a previous service with the Institute and prior to re-employment or reinstatement shall be considered a death and or retirement from government service for purpose of any employee of survivor benefits acquired by reason of service with the agency of the United States government. D. An officer or employee of an agency of the United States government to enter into service with the Institute on approved leave of absence without pay prior to the enactment of this Act shall receive the benefits of this action for the period of such service. Any agency of the United States government employing alien personnel in Taiwan may transfer such personnel with accrued allowances, benefits, and rights to the Institute without a break in service for purposes of retirement and other benefits, including continued participation in a system established by the law of the United States for the retirement of employees in which the alien was participating prior to the transfer to the Institute, except that employment with the Institute shall be credible for retirement purposes only to the extent that employer deductions and employer contributions as required in payment to such participation for the period of employment with the Institute are currently deposited in the assistance fund or depository. Employees of the Institute shall not be employees of the United States and, in representing the Institute, shall be exempt from Action 207 of Title 18 United States Code. 4. A. For purposes of Section 911 and 913 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1954, amounts paid by the Institute to its employees shall not be treated as earned income. Amounts received by employees at the Institute shall not be included in gross income and shall be exempt from taxation to the extent that they are equivalent to amounts received by civilian officers, employees of the government of the United States, as allowances and benefits which are exempt from taxation under Section 912 of such code. B. Except to the extent required by subsection A3 of this section, service performed in the employee of the Institute shall not constitute employment for purposes of Chapter 21 of such code and Title 2 of the Social Security Act. Reporting requirement, Section 12. 1. The Secretary of State shall transmit to the Congress the text of any agreement to which the Institute is a party. However, any such agreement, the immediate public disclosure of which would, in the opinion of the President, be prejudicial to national security of the United States, shall not be so transmitted to the Congress, but shall be transmitted to the Committee on Foreign Relations of the Senate and the Committee on Foreign Affairs of the House of Representatives under an appropriate injunction of secrecy to be removed only upon due notice from the President. 2. For the purposes of subsection A, the term agreement includes A. Any agreement entered into between the State, the Institute, and the governing authorities on Taiwan or the instrumentality established by Taiwan, and B. Any agreement entered into between the Institute and the agency of the United States government. 3. Agreements and transactions made or to be made by or through the Institute shall be subject to the same congressional notification, review, and approval requirements and the procedures as if such arrangements and transactions were made by or through the agency of the United States government on behalf of which the Institute is acting. 4. During the 2-year period beginning at the effective date of this Act, the Secretary of State shall transmit to the Speaker of the House and Senate House of Representatives and the Committee on Foreign Relations of the Senate every 6 months a report describing and reviewing economic relations between the United States and Taiwan, noting any interference with normal commercial relations. Rules and Regulations, Section 13. The President is authorized to prescribe such rules and regulations as he may deem appropriate to carry out the purposes of this Act. During the 3-year period beginning on the effective date of this Act, such rules and regulations shall be transmitted promptly to the Speaker of the House of Representatives and to the Committee on Foreign Relations of the Senate. Such action shall not, however, relieve the Institute of responsibilities placed upon it by this Act. Congressional Oversight, Section 15. 1. The Committee on Foreign Affairs of the House of Representatives, the Committee on Foreign Relations of the Senate, and other appropriate committees of the Congress shall monitor A. The implementation of provisions of this Act. B. The operation and procedures of the Institute. C. The legal and technical aspects of the continuing relationship between the United States and Taiwan. And D. The implementation of policies of the United States concerning security and cooperation in East Asia. 2. Such committees shall report as appropriate to their respective houses on the results of their monitoring. Definition, Section 15. For the purposes of this Act, 1. The term laws of the United States includes any statute, rule, regulation, ordinance, order, or judicial rule or decision of the United States or any political subdivision thereof. And 2. The term Taiwan includes, as the context may require, the islands of Taiwan and the pescadores, the people of those islands, corporations and other entities, and associations created or organized under the laws applied on these islands and the governing authorities on Taiwan recognized by the United States as the Republic of China prior to January 1st, 1979, and any successor governing authorities, including political subdivisions, agencies, and instrumentalities thereof. Authorization of Appropriation, Section 16. In addition to funds otherwise available to carry out the provisions of this Act, they are authorized to be appropriated to the Secretary of State in the fiscal year 1980, such funds as may be necessary to carry out such provisions. Such funds are authorized to remain available until expended. Severability of Provisions, Section 17. If any provision of this Act or the application thereof to any person or circumstances is held invalid, the remainder of the Act and the application of such a provision to any other person or circumstances shall not be effective thereby. Effective date, Section 18. This Act shall be effective as of January 1st, 1979, approved April 10th, 1979. 算是蛮长的而且比较难一点这边先念一遍你自己先看看看得懂多少，看不懂算正常就算英文很好，这个因为句子太长很麻烦。然后第三部分我就开始解释它的意思这边20个频道，尽可能多订阅一点然后可以的话就小donate捐点小钱鼓励一下这一集讲到这边第三部分我们就把中文的意思把它解释一下，还有一些英文要注意的东西会讲解一下这一集讲这个。